welcome to Head to Head. I'm your host and moderator, Chris Frangolini, and I'm joined with Jake Mackey. We have a packed sports show for you today, so let's begin with the hottest team in Boston, the Celtics. Jake, are you happy with the Celtics making no moves at the trade deadline?
No, I'm not too happy with it, Chris, because we're in year 3 right now of the rebuild, post-KG, Paul Pierce era right now. And I think most knowledgeable Celtics fans around this area have no idea what the process is, what the plan is for Danny Ainge and Wyc Grousbeck and all that group there. Are we going to rebuild through the draft? Are we going to pile up all these assets like we have in the past couple of years? They got 8 draft picks this coming June. Are they going to deal all those? They can't keep all of them. Are we going to go make a big trade that they didn't do yesterday? They're going to trade all those picks, or are they going to try and sign a free agent because they haven't done that? They've never been able to sign a big name free agent. They had to ship Kevin Garnett over here with their buddy Kevin McHale. So I'm not too happy with it. I think they should have made a big move yesterday. I think the opportunities were there.
I think they were there, but I don't know if necessarily the price was right. They were linked with guys like Al Horford, Blake Griffin, Dwight Howard. And you're right. The Boston is, for some reason, not an attractive place for free agents. And the best way to build is through through trades, just like Isaiah Thomas. He's a guy that once he was in Boston, now he loves it. He's a guy that I think can stick around and be one of the building blocks. But you're right. I think it's a little confusing where the rebuild is going. Are we building through the draft, free agency, trade? I don't think anyone knows, but I think that this process has been sped up so much. Year 1, post Pierce, Garnett, Allen, they stink. One of the worst teams in the league. Last year, they win 40 games. This year, they're 10 games up. I think they're way ahead of schedule. And you know what? I'm happy that they made no moves because it comes down to 2 things, chemistry and camaraderie. Is this team good enough to win a championship? I don't know, but I think they're going to make it. They're good enough to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. With this group led by Isaiah Thomas, who is sporadic at times. Why would you want a guy like Dwight Howard, who is going to opt out? Why would you want a guy like Pau Gasol, who's up there in age? Another guy that they were linked to. Al Horford, we don't know his contract situation. Will he want to stay in Boston? So you know what? They went with the safe play. And that safe play was keeping your picks and trying to see what happens for the rest of this year. I do think that in the offseason draft time, there's no way that even the main Red Claws have a roster limit. They're not going to stay with 8 picks. That's a ton of picks. They'll package them. They'll find the right deal. But I agree with Danny Ainge not wanting to relinquish that Brooklyn Nets pick.
It's a tough thing. Everyone says build through the draft. You can be like Golden State. They've rebuilt through the draft. Now they're a splurging dynasty. But the fact is you need to get a Steph Curry. You need to get a superstar. At some point, you can't just build on camaraderie and chemistry. You have to roll the dice to get that big-name superstar because in the NBA, you will never win if you don't have a all-NBA type player.
I'm not sure that guy comes to the draft. And,
you have
before
to roll
the
your
show,
dice
I
and
was
get the
looking
trade.
up. The last guy that I was sold on that the Celtics drafted was in 2012 with Fab Melo, kid out of Syracuse. Thought he had some problems, some head case problems coming in, but I thought he may have been the next guy. Not right off the bat, maybe 3-4 years. Now he's overseas. He's not even in the NBA anymore. He's not even in the D-League. So I'm not really a proponent of building through the draft.
You got to deal those pieces.
Even dating back, 2010. Avery Bradley, in my opinion, the best pick that you've drafted in maybe the last decade. Avery Bradley, even he's not a piece that you would want to lead your team. He's not a superstar. He's a guy that will contribute. He plays great defense, but he's not the building block of a superstar. He's one of those well-known players that will contribute on a winning team.
A good piece on a
He would be a
championship
great
team.
piece with a superstar or two.
Which is what I'm pretty sure the whole Celtics roster is right now. Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley, Marcus Smart, all these guys are good pieces on championship caliber teams. They just happen to all be on one team.
I think if traded Danny has anything up his sleeve, it's going to be around draft time.
I hope so.
2004, in my opinion, last time that the Celtics were able to steal some guys in the draft. That was the year they had Al Jefferson, Delonte West, and Tony Allen. Guys like that don't come along. This really isn't a deep draft. Outside of Ben Simmons, a couple of Kansas players, there's really not that many deep guys that I think can come in from day one and change your organization. So how do you see the Celtics approaching the rest of this year going towards the offseason?
Well, right now, they're just going to play it out, right? They're going to, hopefully people said the fans, after yesterday with no trade made, they're going to say, oh, well, they're just going to keep playing good as they have been. But a month ago, they were in 10th place in the Eastern Conference, and everyone was saying, let's go play, Jordan Mickey. Let's call him down from Maine and let's play the young guys because this team's going nowhere. But a month later, we're in 3rd place. And a month from now, they could be back in 10th place. So you have no idea where this team's going right now. I think they're just going to ride it out and keep playing hard. And they're going to be a fun product to watch, but you just have to, prepare yourself because they're going to get knocked out in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they'll be lucky to win a round.
All right, like you said, a month ago, 10th place, with 1 or 2 games separating 4th through 12. Now they're in 3rd place. The only thing that I think has changed is David Lee not playing. That's 18 straight games that his coach's decision did not play. Coming into this season, I thought he could have been that veteran guy. Not too long ago, he was a 20-10 guy in New York as a member of the Knicks. I thought he was that guy that could have pushed them, I don't know, past Cleveland, but definitely into a deep playoff run. And it looks like the David Lee experiment hasn't paid off.
It looks like it's going to end soon. They're going
to buy him out. But I was surprised that they didn't try to flip David Lee for something, even throwing a late pick. But real quick, before we wrap up, as we have time on the show, head-to-head, are the Celtics a championship team this year?
Not even close. I think they're miles and miles away from being a championship team yet. The standings look good. They're in 3rd place. I understand that. It gets me excited too. But the fact is, when you get in the playoffs, it's all about talent. All about talent. We saw that in 2010 when the Celtics got into the 4th seed. They went all the way to the NBA Finals because they were just a veteran talent team. A lot of these teams like Miami, Toronto, Chicago, whoever they are, they could get in the playoffs, but they have a lot of veteran guys who've been in this spot before, and they could just roll over a team like the Celtics in a 7-game series because they just are that more talented and that more experienced. And I think that's what's going to happen to the Celtics. They'll get knocked out in the 2nd round.
Celtics don't have that superstar per se, but they have Isaiah Thomas. I think they're going to make a deep run. For Chris Frangolini, Jake Mackey, we'll be right back after this short break.
Love is love.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
Welcome back to Head to Head. I'm Chris Frangolini, host and moderator, joined with Jake Mackey. We just discussed some Boston Celtics. Time to move on to the NFL. I know the Super Bowl just ended 2 weeks ago, but football season, I think, is still, it's right on the horizon. It really is.
It's the combine next
so
week.
Let's move on to the Patriots. What do you think they need to do in the offseason to improve their chances of getting back to the Super Bowl? And with the draft, again, on the horizon, just a couple days, weeks away, Mel Kiper has said, draft expert, this isn't a deep draft. This is a trenches draft, not a skill position draft. So what do you think that the Patriots can do in the draft and in the offseason, whether by free agency or the draft?
Well, that's perfect for the Patriots right now because your quarterback is turning 39 in August, and right now it is all about protecting your quarterback. They've already made strides by doing that, by bringing back longtime offensive line coach Dante Scarnecchia. So I think you need to go get guards, and you need to go get tackles, and you need to build depth around that offensive line because we saw what injuries did to them last year. They have a good core starting line right now. They have two good starting tackles. I think they need to add a tackle in the draft, maybe add another, free agent, journeyman tackle, and a couple guards. That's where you need to start. But behind that, I think you could use a running back. I think you could use maybe a fourth. I'm not a big deep threat wide receiver guy, but I think they could use somebody that, to complement Edelman and Amendola to, really help this offense be more than one-dimensional.
Yeah, I think right now the clock is ticking. Tom Brady's 39 years old.
This is their best chance this year.
His window's getting smaller and smaller. I don't care what anyone says. The man's not going to play till he's 45. Another 10 years, as he thinks. I think you got to win now. You got to set up the team to win now. If that means throwing money at, which they don't. They don't like throwing money at anybody, regardless of who you are. Hence, they let Darrelle Revis go. Yeah, his production dropped a little bit, but yet they still don't care about the name. They want to know what you can do for them right now. I think you got to bring in a couple key positions. and this is the first time in maybe a decade that we've said this, that they need positional players on offense. Of course, the offensive line needs to be shored up for Tom Brady, because I don't think he can get hit 26 times in a game. One of those hits is going to break something. He's going to get hurt. You got to shore up the offensive line. They brought back the guy, I think, that can do that. I think you got to attack the running back position. We've talked about this throughout the season. You're not sold on the running game, and I know that just because we're not a running team, they just throw it out the window. It's almost like they try to run it 10 times just to say they did, and then they'll rack up 35 yards, and that's not pretty. I think you have to get a running game for Tom Brady. I think Matt Forte.
It was coming.
Yeah, I think Matt Forte is a guy you got to look at. Chicago's not going to re-sign him. He will become a free agent. He fits the system. Here's a guy that catches 100 balls out of the backfield as a running back, can run for 1,000 yards. He makes sense. I'm going to throw another name out there that makes sense. Chris Ivory.
I was just going to say that's who I was going to go with.
If the Jets want to part ways, Chris Ivory makes sense too. I know those guys love flip-flopping teams in the AFC East or any division in football and probably any sport. Chris Ivory, I think, makes sense too.
I think it makes the most sense.
Blunt, I don't think he's coming back, even though if the price is right, I think you throw $1.5, $2 million at him and have him back as depth.
I don't want him back.
Dion Lewis established himself for a good part of the year last year before he got hurt. How is he going to be? Is he going to be 100%? I don't think you can bet on that. I think you got to go out and chase these free agents.
Okay, well, you talk about Matt Forte being a guy who can catch 100 passes out of the backfield, which I like. I've always liked Matt Forte, and Bill Belichick loves him some Matt Forte. But you got James White and you got Dion Lewis, who you just signed to an extension. Those two guys are both guys that catch the ball out of the backfield, so why are you going to bring another guy at a high price tag? That's why I love Chris Ivory. Chris Ivory has dominated the Patriots in the past, and a lot of times when that happens, Bill Belichick wants to bring that guy in. Happened with Wes Welker, happened with a couple other guys. Chris Ivory is a every down bell cow running back, and they need that. They need somebody to do what LeGarrette Blount did. That's all they need, because they're still going to be a passing offense, but I would love if they brought in Chris Ivory just to have that insurance of, hey, we can run the ball if we need to. Because I'm not a big running game guy.
When it snows, you can't throw the ball 50 times.
Well, Tom Brady has before.
He has, but it doesn't work.
It can.
Last
Last year came back to bite him. Last year came back to bite him in the AFC Championship. They got way too one-dimensional, and I think that's when a guy like Chris Ivory can come in and really help your offense.
And it also affects the play call. Josh McDaniels' play calls look
too finesse.
Yeah, too finesse. Sometimes
you go 4th and 1, and you're gonna play action.
Because you've established the run, right? Because they're gonna bite on that. It hurts everyone all around. And I would love Chris Ivory, but let's get back on Forte real quick, because you said that we have guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield. But there's one difference between them and Matt Forte.
What's that?
He's an established running back. He can run for 1,000 yards. Those guys can't.
Dion Lewis
doesn't even get carries running the football.
He can run the ball. He
was
he doesn't
get carries.
He doesn't need
he's used as
if
a
they bring
pass-catching back. He's that Shane Vereen. Shane Vereen didn't get a lot of carries, but he caught a lot of balls out of the backfield.
But you can't have a guy that does both, because if that happens, you know what's going to happen? They're going to get hurt. They tried doing it with Dion Lewis last year. He got hurt. It just doesn't work. You can't have a guy that does both.
No, but you can't bank on injuries. I don't think you can be more injured than you were last year.
Yeah, but at running back, you can bank on injuries, because these guys will get hurt if you keep wearing them out like that, giving them the ball, giving them the rock. You need a running back by committee, which is the way the Patriots have always done it.
Moving on to wide receiver position. Danny Amendola, Aaron Dobson, Brandon LaFell, and a couple free agents that I won't name yet. What's going to happen there? Year 3, Aaron Dobson. I don't think it's working out. Injury prone.
Soft.
Soft. I guess, I saw a bright future for the kid. I guess maybe not New England. Maybe needs a second chance somewhere else, a fresh start. Brandon LaFell, I think, is gone too. Hopefully they can re-sign Danny Amendola or restructure him.
I think Danny Amendola is one that's been talked about a little bit since the season ended, but I think this is a place where he knows he fits. He likes it here. I think he will be willing to restructure because he has a great role, next to Edelman with Brady. Those two other guys, LaFell, Dobson, out the door. Those guys, it just shows it. Brandon LaFell showed last year that he was soft. He wasn't willing to fight for the ball. Aaron Dobson's the same exact thing.
As we talked about before, you got to go all in right now. Calvin Johnson, interesting name to keep
an
up
eye
there.
out.
We're going to wrap it up here on Head to Head. I'm Chris Frangolini, joined here with Jake Mackey. Thanks for listening in, and have a great day.